So before I get into the animating, I think it's important to briefly explain the situation to those who might be out of the loop. To recap, Gamefreak announced that there would be Pokemon excluded from Sword and Shield, which sparked outrage to the likes Pokemon has never seen before. Maybe. In response to this outrage, Junichi Masuda, the producer, stated that part of this was so that they could create a world with much higher fidelity and higher quality animations. Very shortly after that statement, they showed us this. Now, I'm only going to be speaking from my own experiences and my own line of thinking, but this isn't very high quality and it definitely didn't take that much time to create, which I'll be showing firsthand shortly. Compared to other games already on the Switch, this feels a bit like a kick in the teeth, and the argument that they cut down on the Pokédex to create higher quality animation and the ones left over is arguably less than true potentially, but who knows. I also want to note that I'm still learning and I'm not the best animator out there, but I'll give it my best shot. So let's start with Wingo. People are unhappy with how static and janky the turn is, which could be fixed very easily unless every Pokemon in Sword and Shield share the same walk path, in which case they'd have to make a unique one for some Pokemon like Wingo. I also don't think the base animation of Wingo is as bad as people say it is. Wingo likes to glide rather than fly. It's a very peaceful floating animation, which I like. That being said, of course there are more things they could do to spice it up, but as it is now, I think it gets the job done. Regardless, I made this to show how they could make it look a little bit more natural. Instead of moving like this, in a very straightforward A to B path, he should be moving like this. Now, instead of the sudden change in direction, Wingo floats in a smooth arc. They could add more wing flapping or what have you, but if they did it like this, they probably wouldn't have gotten much, if any, negative attention from people, and it's likely that nobody would have even noticed the problem. As for the tail whip animation, I'm going to recreate the one shown in the trailer and then create my own custom one. Just to show people how little time it would take to actually create what they ended up doing, I made this little idle animation for Pikachu in roughly 5-ish minutes, and now I'm going to show you how they did their version of tail whip. So this took about 2 minutes to do, not exactly what I'd call a high quality animation. I'm sorry, Gamefreak. I would have to argue that no matter which way you cut it, this is just not anywhere near the level of animation quality that should be present in a 2019 game when the animators are presumably very talented and they're getting paid to do this. Now I'm going to make my own tail whip animation and talk a little bit about how I'm viewing things at this point. It's not going to be perfect as I'm not that great of an animator yet, but I think it gets the point across. In total, this took 40 minutes to complete, which would mean that they would have to spend around 40 minutes, more or less, based on each Pokemon, per Pokemon, for 1,000 Pokemon for one move. Pokemon can learn many moves, but we need to take into account that a lot of Pokemon already have their own special animations for some moves, so that would cut down the time to create more unique animations drastically as well, since a lot already exist. However, very important to note, as I said earlier, Pokemon can learn a lot of moves. Let's take Pikachu for example. Pikachu, as of Gen 7, I believe can learn over 70 moves in total. That would mean around 70 unique animations just for one Pokemon. Multiply that by the current amount of Pokemon, and while the number is going to fluctuate because some can learn more and some can learn less, that is still an extremely high amount of unique animations required. Which leads me to have to ask, is this really that big of a deal? Are we asking for too much from Gamefreak? They're a small indie company after all. To be honest, I think the answer isn't as simple as you'd imagine, and I might not even be able to answer it. On the one hand, animating what could be 40,000 potential unique animations alone is an extremely daunting task. On the other hand, Masuda said that they're cutting down the Pokédex so that they can create higher quality animations, and from where we're standing and what we've seen, that just doesn't seem to be the case. The animations are all simple or reused from previous games. These simple ones used didn't take that long to create at all, but the alternative would have taken an immensely long time. Or maybe, how many animators do they have at Gamefreak? If they hired more, which would be costly, but I mean, come on now, Pokemon is the #1 most grossing franchise on the planet. If they assigned 1 or even 2 Pokemon per animator, that animator could definitely handle 70 unique animations on their own. And look at how long it took me to do this tail whip animation, 40 minutes flat. Maybe it takes longer when you're a professional and your work actually looks good, but I think I've proven that it probably wouldn't take all that long to do regardless. You could probably knock out 3 to 4 animations in a day. I admit I don't know all the going-ons at game studios, and maybe it's not that simple. But honestly, who really even knows what's going on in Game Freak Studio? We have no idea what they're doing or what they're dealing with. Whether they're being lazy or there's some legitimate reason that we don't know and they can't tell us, we're only left to speculate. Also, for those who argue against the animation with attack animations take too long, I don't want to sit and watch an animation for 8 seconds. Animations don't have to take 8 seconds. The one I did is 2 seconds long, which is just as long as the corgi one they showed, but it has more character. So please, for the sake of my sanity, don't argue with people wanting better animation quality. They want things to be better for all of us. To close this video off, in my humble opinion, I think doing real animations for Pokemon is 100% reasonable to expect in 2019 and beyond. And it's definitely doable. Especially since they're cutting a chunk of the decks off and they're using that as an excuse to do better animations, which is yet to be seen, as a lot of it seems to be reused from older games anyway. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you learned something, and I hope this video didn't make you more angry than you might have already been. If anybody is more knowledgeable than I am on the subject, please feel free to correct me and make me see the light. I am more than open to being proven wrong. Have a great day.